I, 35F, never thought I'd be starting over at this age, but here I am, kicked out by my own family on my birthday. I guess I should give you some background first. I've been working as a marketing assistant for the past few years. It's not the most glamorous job, but it pays the bills, or at least it did when I was living with my family. My mom has always been critical of my career choices, constantly asking when I'm going to get a real job. My dad, on the other hand, just stays out of it all, preferring to avoid conflict. Then there's my younger brother, 34M, who's somehow become the golden child despite barely contributing to the household. Living with them hasn't been easy. I've been paying a significant portion of the bills, buying groceries, and even handling house repairs when something breaks down. You'd think that would earn me some appreciation, right? Wrong. Every time I walk into a room, I hear my mom talking down to me like I'm some kind of failure. When are you going to get a real job, she'd say, as if marketing isn't a legitimate career. I've tried to defend myself, but it's always the same response: if it was a real job, you'd have your own place by now. Yeah, because the housing market is just so affordable these days, Mom. Anyway, my 35th birthday was coming up, and despite everything, I was kind of excited. I know, dumb, right? But I really thought maybe this year would be different. I even saved up and got myself a nice cake from this fancy bakery downtown. I was imagining how we'd have a little celebration, just the four of us. Nothing big, but I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd actually care. A few days before, I sat down with my parents to talk about it. Hey, I was thinking we could do something for my birthday this weekend. You know, just hang out, maybe have some cake, I said, trying to keep my hopes in check. Mom didn't even look up from her magazine. We'll see. We might have plans. Plans? On my birthday? I should have known something was up, but I didn't want to believe it. I mean, I've been living there my whole life, helping out, working hard. Why would they have plans that didn't include me? Fast forward to my birthday. I went to work, got a bunch of happy birthday messages from coworkers, and even treated myself to a new outfit. Things were looking up, right? I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd get home and they'd have a little surprise waiting for me. I don't know, a card, a cake, something. Anything. But the second I pulled into the driveway, my stomach dropped. My stuff was out on the front lawn. Boxes, bags, my clothes, my books, everything just thrown out there like trash. I jumped out of the car, my heart pounding, and rushed over to the porch. And there they were, my mom, dad, and brother, just standing there staring at me. It was like some twisted family meeting or something. My heart was racing, and I couldn't even think straight. What's going on? I asked, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Mom stepped forward, her face cold like she didn't care at all. It's time for you to move out. You're not welcome here anymore. I stood there frozen, like I couldn't process what she was saying. Move out? On my birthday? What kind of sick joke was this? I looked at Dad, hoping he'd step in, say something, tell me this was all a misunderstanding. But no, he just stared at the ground, his hands stuffed in his pockets like he couldn't even look at me. I felt this rush of anger and confusion. But it's my birthday. Where am I supposed to go? My voice cracked, and I hated how desperate I sounded. That's when my brother chimed in, his smirk making me want to scream. Maybe you should have thought about that before being such a burden all these years. A burden? I was the one paying the bills, buying food, keeping this crappy house from falling apart. How was I the burden? I looked at my mom, hoping, begging for some kind of explanation, something that made sense. It wasn't enough, she said, her voice sharp like a slap. We need the space, and frankly, you need to grow up. That was it. No empathy, no second chances, just cold indifference. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them see me break down. Can I at least get my things? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. They're all packed, my mom replied, gesturing to the boxes on the lawn like it was no big deal. You should go now. Happy birthday to me, right? I started loading the boxes into my car, my hands shaking. It felt surreal, like I was living someone else's nightmare. I wanted to scream, to cry, to ask them how they could be so heartless. But I didn't. I just kept moving, one box after another, trying to hold myself together. As I finished packing up the last of my things, I turned to look at them one last time, hoping, no, praying, that they'd change their minds, that they'd realize how messed up this was. Why today? Why on my birthday? I asked, barely able to get the words out. Mom didn't even blink. Consider it our gift to you. Independence. And just like that, I was gone. On what should have been a day of celebration, I found myself driving away from the only home I'd ever known, with no idea where I was headed. I ended up at some cheap motel, the kind with a flickering neon sign out front, spending my birthday alone, surrounded by my hastily packed belongings. I sat there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how the people who were supposed to love me could be so cruel. How could they do this to me, their own daughter, on my birthday? That night, I made a promise to myself. I would never rely on them again. I would pick myself up, no matter how hard it got, because clearly, I was on my own now. The next day, I went to work, trying to act like everything was normal. But my boss, she's sharp. She noticed pretty quickly that something was off. I was at the office at all hours, hunched over my laptop, answering emails like a robot. It didn't take long for her to pull me aside. It was late, and the office was practically empty when she found me at my desk. "Can we talk?" she asked, leaning on the edge of my cubicle. I looked up, and I must have looked like a mess because she gave me this concerned look. "You're going to work yourself into the ground at this rate. What's going on?" I didn't want to get into it, but the second she asked, it all just came out. I told her everything, how my family kicked me out, how I was staying in this horrible motel with my stuff still in boxes. As I talked, her expression softened. She didn't say anything at first, just listened, which was more than my family ever did. When I finished, she let out a sigh and said, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I shrugged, feeling embarrassed. I mean, she's my boss, not my therapist. But she didn't seem to mind. "Look," she said, "I have a spare room in my place. It's not much, but you're welcome to stay there until you figure things out." I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know how to respond at first. "Are you serious?" I asked, half expecting her to change her mind or something. But she smiled and nodded. "Of course. I know what it's like to be in a tough spot. Don't worry about it." I was so relieved I almost started crying again, but I managed to hold it together. "Thank you," I whispered. "I don't know how to repay you." She waved me off. "Don't even mention it. You've been killing it at work, and I'd hate to see you burn out. Just promise me you'll take care of yourself." And just like that, I had a place to stay. It wasn't home, but it was something. I packed up my stuff from the motel and moved into my boss's guest room the next day. It was a little small, but it was clean, warm, and quiet, which was all I needed at that point. The first night there, I sat on the bed, just trying to process everything. I felt a little better, but there was still this hole in my chest, like everything I thought I knew had been ripped away. But I didn't let myself wallow for too long. I threw myself into work even harder, if that's possible. My boss wasn't kidding when she said she'd push me harder, but honestly, I appreciated it. It kept me distracted. I took on more freelance gigs too. I figured the more money I could save, the faster I could get out on my own. It wasn't easy, though. There were nights where I stayed up until 3 a.m., just staring at my computer, trying to crank out designs while my mind kept drifting back to my family. I kept thinking maybe they'd call, maybe they'd apologize, maybe they'd realize they messed up. But no. Nothing. Radio silence. During all this, my best friend M was a godsend. We've been friends since college, and even though we weren't living in the same city anymore, we'd always stayed close. I told him what happened, and he was furious. "I can't believe they'd do that to you," he said during one of our calls. "You deserve better." He wasn't wrong, but it still stung. "Yeah, well, it is what it is," I muttered. I just got to keep moving forward. Being the joker he is, tried to lighten the mood. You know what would really piss them off, he said with a laugh. You becoming wildly successful and rubbing it in their faces. I laughed, but the idea stuck with me. Not that I wanted revenge or anything. Okay, maybe a little. But mostly, I just wanted to prove to myself that I didn't need them. I could make it on my own. So that became my mission. Work harder, save more, and eventually get out of my boss's guest room and into a place of my own. Over the next few months, things started looking up. My designs were getting noticed by bigger clients, and I was bringing in more money than I ever had. I kept telling myself that every late night, every all-nighter was worth it. And honestly, it was. Slowly but surely, I was rebuilding my life, one project at a time. I started to feel like maybe I didn't need my family after all. Sure, it hurt, and it probably always would, but I was proving to myself that I could survive without them. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And that felt good. One day, my boss pulled me into her office with this huge grin on her face. I've got some good news, she said. How does lead designer sound to you? With a raise, of course. I was speechless. Are you serious? I blurted out, feeling like I might pass out from excitement. Dead serious, she said, still grinning. You've earned it. You've been doing incredible work, and it's time to recognize that. I couldn't believe it. Lead designer. Me. I felt like all the hard work, all the sleepless nights, all the stress, it was finally paying off. Thank you, I managed to say, still in shock. Don't thank me yet, she said, winking. You're going to have a lot more responsibility now. I didn't care. I was ready for it. This was what I'd been working for. With the raise and all the freelance gigs I'd been stacking up, I was finally in a place where I could start thinking about my next move. Literally. I wasn't going to stay in my boss's guest room forever, and now I could actually start looking for a place of my own. But the thing was, it wasn't just about the money or the job. It was about finally feeling like I was in control of my life again. For so long, I'd felt stuck. Stuck in that house with my family, stuck in their expectations of me, stuck in their judgment. But now I was free. I was making my own decisions, building my own life, and no one could take that away from me. I was finally moving forward, and it felt damn good. As I left my boss's office, my mind was already racing with possibilities. Maybe I could afford that nice apartment complex I'd been eyeing. Or maybe I could even think about buying a small house. The thought made me giddy with excitement. That night, as I lay in bed in the guest room, I couldn't sleep. Not because of stress or worry like before, but because of excitement. For the first time in months, I felt truly hopeful about the future. I'd done it. I'd picked myself up, dusted myself off, and not only survived but thrived. I thought about calling my family to share the news, but then I stopped myself. Why? They hadn't bothered to check on me once since they kicked me out. They didn't deserve to be part of this success. This was mine, all mine. As I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but smile. Tomorrow was a new day, and I couldn't wait to see what it would bring. I was ready for whatever came next, because I knew now that I could handle it. I was stronger than I ever thought possible, and nothing, not even my own family, could hold me back anymore. So, Reddit, that's where I am now. From being kicked out on my birthday to becoming a lead designer with my own place on the horizon. It's been a hell of a journey, and I know it's not over yet. But for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about what's next. I guess sometimes you have to lose everything to realize just how much you're capable of. And to those of you out there who might be going through something similar, hang in there. It gets better. You're stronger than you know. Update 1, hey Reddit, it's been 3 months since my last post, and a lot has changed. I wanted to give you all an update on my situation. Living at my boss's place has been an adjustment, but I'm incredibly grateful for her generosity. The guest room isn't huge, but it's clean and quiet. I've thrown myself into work like never before, partly to distract myself from thinking about my family, but also because I realized this was my chance to prove myself. About a month ago, a big opportunity came up. Our company was pitching for a major client, and my boss asked me to be part of the team working on the proposal. I was thrilled but also terrified. This was my chance to show what I could do. For 2 weeks straight, I practically lived at the office. I poured everything I had into that pitch. Every idea, every design trick I'd learned over the years, it all went into this project. There were nights I slept at my desk, waking up with keyboard imprints on my face. The day of the pitch came, and I was a bundle of nerves. But they loved our pitch. They loved my designs. A week later, we got the news, we landed the client. It was the biggest account our company had ever secured. But it didn't stop there. About 2 weeks ago, my boss called me into her office. "We've been really impressed with your work," she said. "How would you feel about taking on more responsibility? We'd like to promote you to senior designer." I was floored. Me? Senior designer? It felt surreal. Of course, I said yes. The promotion came with a significant pay raise too. Suddenly, the idea of getting my own place didn't seem so far-fetched anymore. The financial stability that came with the promotion and raise has been a game changer. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. I've started building up savings, and I'm even looking into investment options. I've started apartment hunting too. Nothing fancy, but the idea of having my own space again is exciting. I found a cute little one-bedroom not far from the office that I'm seriously considering. All of this, the promotion, the raise, the potential new apartment, it's done wonders for my confidence. I walk taller now. I speak up more in meetings. I'm not afraid to share my ideas or stand up for myself. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are still moments when the pain of what my family did hits me. Sometimes, I'll be in the middle of work, feeling good about myself, and suddenly I'll remember that birthday. The look on my mom's face as she told me to leave. The way my dad couldn't even look at me. It still hurts. I haven't heard from any of them since that day. No calls, no texts, nothing. Part of me is relieved, I don't know what I'd say to them if they did reach out. But another part of me is angry. How could they just cut me off like that? My friend M keeps telling me I'm better off without them. "Look at all you've accomplished on your own," he says. And he's right. I've done more in the past 3 months than I did in years living with my family. But still, there's this nagging voice in the back of my head that wonders if they ever think about me. I've thought about reaching out to them. Telling them about my promotion, about how well I'm doing. Part of me wants to rub it in their faces, show them that I didn't need them after all. But a bigger part of me knows that's not the answer. My success is for me, not for them. So for now, I'm focusing on myself. On building my career, on finding a new place to live, on creating a life that I'm proud of. It's not always easy. There are days when the loneliness hits hard, when I miss the idea of family, even if the reality was never that great. But those days are getting fewer and farther between. To anyone out there who might be going through something similar, hang in there. It gets better. You're stronger than you know. And sometimes, the family you choose, friends, colleagues, even kind strangers on the internet, can be more supportive than the family you're born into. As for me, I'm excited about what the future holds. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm on the right path. I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm thriving. And that feels pretty damn good. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Your support has meant the world to me. Here's to new beginnings and bright futures. We've got this. Update 2. Hey, Reddit, it's been about 5 months since my last update, and things have taken an unexpected turn. First, some good news, I finally got my own place. After months of saving and searching, I found an amazing apartment. It's not huge, but it's all mine. The moment I signed the lease, I felt this incredible sense of accomplishment. No more living in my boss's guest room or worrying about imposing. Moving in was surreal. As I unpacked, I realized how far I'd come. Each item I placed felt like a small victory. I even treated myself to some new furniture, nothing fancy, but it's mine, bought with my own hard-earned money. The first night in my new place, I just sat on my couch, looking around in disbelief. I'd done it. I'd landed on my feet and created a home for myself. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs. Last week, I was working from home when my doorbell rang. I checked the security camera and my heart nearly stopped. There, standing on my doorstep, were my parents and my brother. With shaking hands, I opened the door. My mom pushed past me into my apartment, her eyes scanning every inch. My brother followed, looking uncomfortable, while my dad shuffled in last, hands in his pockets. "What are you doing here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Mom turned around with a fake smile. "We're here to talk about living arrangements." I blinked, confused. "What?" Dad cleared his throat. "We think it's time for the family to be back together." For a second, I thought they were joking. "You're joking, right?" I asked, my voice dripping with disbelief. Mom's smile faded. "No, we've talked it over, and we think it's time we all live together again. As a family." I stared at her, speechless. After everything that had happened, after they kicked me out on my birthday, they wanted to move in with me? My brother chimed in, "Come on, don't be so dramatic. That's all in the past." I felt my blood boil. All in the past? You guys threw me out on my birthday. You left me with nowhere to go, no support, nothing. And now you want to just waltz back into my life like nothing happened? Mom's expression hardened. "We gave you the push you needed. And look how well you've done because of it. You should be thanking us." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were trying to take credit for my success, for everything I'd worked my ass off for. So what, you think you can just show up, claim credit for my hard work, and move in here? This is my home, not yours. Dad stepped forward. "Be reasonable. We're struggling right now. You have all this space, and we thought it'd be nice to be together again." I shook my head. "You're only here because you need something. You didn't care about me when I was struggling, and now you expect me to help you? That's not how this works." Mom's face twisted with anger. "We're your family. We sacrificed for you. Everything you have is because of us." I couldn't hold back anymore. "Sacrificed? What exactly did you sacrifice? You kicked me out. You didn't help me when I needed it most. You threw me away like I was nothing, and now you think you're entitled to my success? To my home?" My brother rolled his eyes. "God, stop being so selfish. We're just asking for a little help." That word, selfish, set me off. Selfish? You want to talk about selfish? How about you all throwing me out of the house, leaving me with nothing? How about showing up here now, demanding that I give you a place to stay because you've screwed up your own lives? That's selfish, not me. Mom's eyes narrowed. Fine. If you want to be difficult, we'll take legal action. We have rights, you know. I let out a bitter laugh. Go ahead, try. But let me tell you something, this is my house, and you have no right to it. You're not moving in. Not now, not ever. Finally, I walked over to the front door and opened it wide. Get out, I said, my voice steady. Now. They hesitated for a moment, but I stood firm. Mom huffed, shooting me a look full of hatred before marching out. Dad and my brother followed without another word. As soon as they were gone, I closed the door and leaned against it, taking a deep breath. My heart was still racing, and my hands were shaking, but I felt this weird sense of relief. Like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't going to let them take advantage of me anymore. Not now, not ever. So, Reddit, that's where I am now. I've gone from being kicked out on my birthday to owning my own place, only to have my family try to weasel their way back in. It's been a roller coaster, to say the least. I'm still processing everything that happened, but I know one thing for sure, I made the right choice. I've worked too hard and come too far to let them drag me down again. To those of you who've been following my story, thank you for your support. It means more than you know. And to anyone out there dealing with toxic family members, remember, you have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to say no. You have the right to live your life on your own terms. Stay strong, Reddit. We've got this. Update 3, hey, Reddit, it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and things have taken a wild turn. I really need your advice now. After kicking my family out of my apartment, I thought that would be the end of it. I was so wrong. The situation has escalated faster than I could have imagined. A few days after their surprise visit, I got a call from my mom. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Big mistake. We're not done discussing this, she said, her voice ice cold. You can't just throw away your family like this. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I'm not throwing anyone away. You're the ones who kicked me out, remember? She scoffed. That was different. We were teaching you a lesson. Now you need to step up and help your family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Help? By letting you take over the home I worked so hard for? No way. That's when she dropped the bomb. If you don't reconsider, we'll have no choice but to take legal action. My heart stopped. Legal action? For what? We'll figure something out, she said ominously. You owe us. I hung up, my hands shaking. Legal action? What could they possibly sue me for? I hadn't done anything wrong. But the threat alone was enough to send me into a panic. For the next few days, I was a complete mess. I couldn't focus on work. I couldn't sleep. The idea that my own family would try to sue me was just incomprehensible. After a few days of stewing in anxiety, I remembered my friend M. He's a lawyer, and while family law isn't his specialty, I figured he might be able to offer some advice. I called him up and explained the situation. He listened patiently, then let out a long whistle. That's seriously messed up, he said. But honestly, I don't think they have a leg to stand on legally. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, but it was short-lived. That said, M continued, they could still try to file a frivolous lawsuit. It probably wouldn't go anywhere, but it could be a hassle and cost you money to defend against. So what should I do? I asked, feeling lost and overwhelmed. M thought for a moment. First, document everything. Every call, every text, every interaction. If they show up again, record it if you can. Second, we might want to consider a restraining order. A restraining order. Against my own family. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Isn't that a bit extreme? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Look, M said, his voice gentle but firm. They kicked you out on your birthday. They're now threatening legal action because you won't let them mooch off you. They've shown they don't respect your boundaries. A restraining order might be the only way to get them to back off. He had a point. A painful, horrible point. After more harassing texts from my family, I decided to go through with the restraining order. M helped me file the paperwork. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. A week later, we had a court hearing. I was a nervous wreck, but M was there with me, calm and professional. My family showed up too, looking shocked that I'd actually gone through with it. The judge listened to both sides. My family tried to paint me as an ungrateful daughter who had abandoned them in their time of need. But when the judge heard about how they'd kicked me out on my birthday, how they'd threatened legal action when I wouldn't let them move in, and saw the evidence of their harassing messages, his expression changed. In the end, the judge granted the restraining order. My family can't come within 100 feet of me or my home, and they're prohibited from contacting me. As the judge announced his decision, I felt a mix of relief and profound sadness wash over me. As we left the courthouse, I felt, I don't know, relieved, but also incredibly sad. This was never how I imagined my relationship with my family would end up. Back at my apartment, I finally felt like I could breathe again. The constant anxiety of waiting for the next call or visit was gone. I was safe. I was free. But the emotional toll was heavy. Em stayed with me for a while, making sure I was okay. You did the right thing, he assured me. It's not easy, but you're protecting yourself. That's important. I nodded, grateful for his support. What happens now? I asked, feeling a bit lost. Now, you live your life, he said with a smile. Focus on your job, your friends, your future. They can't hold you back anymore. He's right. It's going to take time to heal from all of this, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can move forward without constantly looking over my shoulder. So, Reddit, that's where things stand now. I have a restraining order against my own family. It's not something I ever thought I'd say, but here we are. It's been a difficult journey, but I'm hopeful for what comes next. To those of you who've been following my story, thank you for your support. It's meant more than you know. And to anyone out there dealing with toxic family members, remember, you have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to peace. You have the right to live your life on your own terms. I'll update again if anything significant happens, but for now, I'm looking forward to some peace and quiet. Wish me luck, Reddit. Here's to new beginnings and brighter days ahead.